talent that exists in the sport of shooting is pretty unique. We did well in Paris, and hopefully we continue with that momentum and build on it. And do well in LA in a couple of years.
And another question, India is bidding for the Olympic Games. Your thoughts on that? Whether are we ready, or do you see we need to do a bit more work?
Well, I think the Olympic Games will come to India. I think there is no doubt about it that the Games will come to India. I think it is a matter of timing on when they will eventually come. I think it's a good thing that we are bidding and we are going into that journey. I think there are double-digit countries that currently interested to host the Games. Most bids will fail, but I think the important thing for a country like India is to use the bid. Whether if we win, fantastic, but even if we don't get it, particularly sport must win, and sport must go forward. And we are already seeing signs of that happening. I think the sports governance bill came into play. I think it was enacted in Parliament a couple of months ago. There is a little bit of more sense of purpose, which we are seeing all around, and I think I attribute that to the bid, and I think that's wonderful to see. And I wish our bid team all the very best. And of course, as an Indian athlete, I'd love to see the Olympic Games come to India sooner rather than later, but I'm sure that they'll come at some point.
Hello, Mr. Bindra. This is Basil for the Goan. Through your foundation, you have dedicated yourself to the upliftment of sports in the country. That said, how do you see your role in the rise of chess in the country through your foundation?
Well, to be very honest, we have not focused on chess as a sport. To support that particular sport, we're very focused on Olympic sports because, given my background and for young athletes, we provide a scholarship called the STEAM Scholarship Program, which incorporates science, technology, engineering, analytics, and medicine into athlete training across different sporting disciplines. Having said that, you've given a good idea. If I can support any chess players that are interested in it, because I am quite sure that chess is just not played sitting down. It also requires a great amount of physical preparation, because to be mentally alert, you would require yourself to be physically in good shape, because I think both of them are very interlinked. So if in any way I can support the sport of chess, I'd be happy to look into it. But so far, answering your question very directly, we focused predominantly on Olympic sports.
And do you see chess become an Olympic sport?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even know if FIDE is trying to get it to an Olympic sport. I don't know. I just don't have the requisite knowledge and the background on it to give a thoughtful comment on it. I just don't know.
हेलो सर, मेरा नाम पूजा शर्मा है, राष्ट्रीय टीवी से मैं हूँ। सबसे बड़ी बात है कि आज हम आपके सामने सवाल पूछ रहे हैं, क्योंकि आप पहले ऐसे भारतीय ओलंपिक खिलाड़ी हैं जिन्होंने गोल्ड दिया, गोल्डन मैन के नाम से आपको जाना जाता है। 116 हस्तियाँ, उनके बीच में भारत का एक ऐसा प्रतिनिधित्व जिसने ओलंपिक ऑर्डर जिन्हें मिला है। बहुत लोगों के, युवाओं के आप रोल मॉडल हैं, चाहे बात शूटिंग की हो या शतरंज की। कितना ज़्यादा डेडिकेशन होता है और क्या एक सीख आप देने वाले हैं लोगों को जो अब खेल के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा मुझे लगता है कि रुचि दिखा रहे हैं, क्योंकि भारत भी लगातार ओलंपिक में बहुत अच्छा काम कर रहा है और ऐसा लगता भी है कि आने वाले 8-10 सालों में हम बहुत ज़्यादा और आगे पहुंच जाएंगे। तो आपको क्या लगता है, ऐसे कौन सा डेडिकेशन या कौन सी एक सीख आप देना चाहेंगे?
देखिए, एक तो आपने सही कहा। आई थिंक भारत आगे स्पोर्ट में और भी अच्छा करेगा। मेरा बिलीफ है कि जो अगला डेकेड होगा विल ऑल्सो बी डेकेड फॉर स्पोर्ट इन दिस कंट्री। स्पोर्ट और डेवलप होगा। हम देख ही रहे हैं कि हमारी जो युवा पॉपुलेशन, इतनी लार्ज पॉपुलेशन है, जो हमारा डेमोग्राफिक है, वो कंजम्पशन ऑफ स्पोर्ट है। चाहे लोग स्पोर्ट को इंजॉय कर रहे हैं, जस्ट वॉचिंग एज स्पेक्टेटर्स, यहाँ एक्टिवली पार्टिसिपेटिंग इन इट, वो नंबर राइज करता जा रहा है। जो मैं देखना चाहूँगा इस दैट जो हमारी एक 1.4 बिलियन की पॉपुलेशन है, हमारे जो प्लेइंग पॉपुलेशन है, हमको वो इंक्रीज़ करनी होगी। जब schools में ज़्यादा opportunities मिले बच्चों को just to experience sport, not to become some champion or Olympic gold medalist or whatever, but just experience sport to become healthier, to imbibe values through sport. जब ये opportunities बढ़ेंगी, automatically आपके जो एक by product उसका होगा कि जो elite sport में participation है वो भी increase होगी. तो मैं वो चाहूँगा कि वो होगा. Of course आपने अपना question थोड़ा अपने में ही answer कर दिया. I think there is no shortcut to success. The shortest way to success is hard work. तो मैं सभी athletes को यही कहना चाहूँगा कि you have to put your best foot forward, keep working hard, and Olympic Games for me don't come once in 4 years, they come every day. So every day you have to put in your best show to try and get better than what you were.
Abhinav, hi, Marcus from the Times of India. You spoke earlier about how nobody has any doubt that eventually the Olympics have to come to India sooner or later. We have to be ready from an organization point of view, from an infrastructure point of view. But how important is it for India to be ready from a sporting point of view? Because we will possibly be among the countries that are not, consistent medal winners or medal winners in a larger way, sort of. So how important is it for India to be ready from a sporting point of view?
I think it's a good question, and I think it's no secret that you have to work on both aspects parallelly. There's of course an aspect of development of sport, and you already know that we've done reasonably a lot of work has happened in the last few years to really give elite athletes a lot of support, and that is being done at a really good level. But of course, we would like to see more athletes win medals, and especially if you're hosting an Olympic Games in your own country, you would like to see the games, your own athletes do well, because that will just take it from there. But I think I'll try and answer it. Of course, the answer is yes, and there has to be work done. But I think I'll give an even deeper, maybe a different way of answering your question. I think we have to use the Olympic bid and the Olympic Games as an opportunity for development. We don't want the Olympic Games to be just a 2 weeks sporting extravaganza, or 10 days or 2 weeks of the Paralympics as a sporting extravaganza. We should use the Games as a catalyst for change, for developing sport at different levels. Whether I talked about the school level, whether it be grassroots community sport, whether to make this country healthier, to make this country active, to really imbibe sport into the fabric of our society. And while I think being a young demographic, sport is becoming more popular, but I do believe that we need to actively work much harder to get the playing population, like your colleague just asked, to increase the playing population of this country. That is very important. Your earlier question, we want more medals, and that's what you were referring to, right? We're 1.4 billion people, but I want you to answer me a question: how many of that 1.4 billion actually play sport? So the number is actually quite little if you really look into it. So I think the work that needs to go into increase that participation, I think, is important. And if the bid or any of the Olympics can help us get there, and it must help us get there, because as I said, the Games and the Olympic Games must be used as a catalyst for development and a catalyst for change.
Hi Abhinav, just wanted to understand, Mukesh is, we have a young world chess champion at the age of 18 in chess. He's always spoken glowingly about your book. It's as one of the books that he really likes reading. You yourself had a similar trajectory. You became an Olympic medalist, and then for a few months you did not have the motivation. You were still trying to realign your targets in a sense. And we are seeing the same with Mukesh right now, since he's become world champion. What advice would you maybe have for him on how to go ahead and maintain that level?
See, frankly, I must answer your question with a disclaimer, because I have not spoken to him on it. I don't know what is going on in his mind. So if I say something, it might be completely irrelevant to him. I know that you won't publish the disclaimer, but I'm just making it quite clear. because I don't know what's going on in his mind. But I think it is very normal for athletes to, after having massive success, to have a period of motivation loss or just a quiet period. It is just normal, and it is just a cycle every athlete faces. I think the most important thing is to just go back to your basics, to go back to the foundation, to go back to the drawing board, and to really, you've reached a mountain, and you've climbed this peak, and human nature really is that you want to jump to the next peak, but you simply can't jump to the next peak. You have to climb that peak down, and then step by step plug the gaps that have cropped in, and then work on the foundation and go back again. All of this requires, the only advice that I would really like to give is all of this requires an immense amount of energy. And sometimes, after having achieved such high success, you're a little bit drained. An individual, it's human to be drained, not just physically, mentally, emotionally, and it sometimes just takes a little while to really get your batteries completely recharged and full, so that you can start thinking really clearly on what your next goals or what you want to do next is, and that really helps you get to it. Because again, the reality in sport, for an athlete, the unfortunate reality in sport is that yesterday never counts. You're only as good as what you're on that particular day. You win, and then the very next day the world is asking for more proof if you're good enough to what you were yesterday, good enough to what will you be up to the next challenger. But that is what we have to face, and that is what every athlete has to undergo. But I think as long as you continue to find joy in what you're doing, and keep putting in the right effort day in and day out, I'm sure the success will come back. But it is just a normal cycle every athlete faces, and I think you come out of it richer as a person.
Hello, I'm Niklesh from JSBC and Punjab Kesari. मेरा सवाल आपसे ये था कि आप उस स्पोर्ट से आते हैं, इंडिविजुअल स्पोर्ट से, आप जब उभरे, आपने गोल्ड मेडल लिया, आप उदाहरण हैं उन चीज़ों का जहाँ पर बहुत ही ऑर्गेनाइज ट्रेनिंग जो है वो आपको एक टॉप पे ले जाती है, आपके पेरेंट्स का उसमें बहुत बड़ा योगदान रहता है। तो जितने भी इंडिविजुअल स्पोर्ट्स हैं, जैसे विश्वनाथ आनंद जी का जो है प्रदर्शन, उसमें उनके पेरेंट्स का और वही प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग का काफ़ी योगदान रहा। और अभी चेस में अच्छी बात है कि गुकेश, प्रज्ञानंदा सारे उभर रहे हैं। आप कैसे देखते हो इसमें अभी भी पेरेंट्स का, क्योंकि इंडिया में अभी भी इंडिविजुअल स्पोर्ट्स को, स्पेशली शूटिंग, चेस, ठीक है लोग देख रहे हैं, बढ़ रहे हैं, लेकिन अभी भी वो नंबर्स हम जैसे आप बोलते हैं कि 1% भी नहीं है या 2% भी नहीं हो रहे हैं। तो इसमें पेरेंट्स का अभी भी आप रोल कितना इंपॉर्टेंस देखते हैं आने वाले सालों में? और एज ए इंडिविजुअल स्पोर्ट्स आपको क्या लग रहा है कि चेस अब क्या आप फॉलो करते हैं गुकेश की विक्ट्री या प्रज्ञानंदा की? ये दोनों सवाल थे मेरे।
बिल्कुल, I don't follow the sport so much. I'm not a purist, to be very honest, but I follow the players, being very honest, and I was very excited when Gukesh won the World Championships. To your first question, जो आपने पूछा, of course, it is not an India-specific thing. I think parents are always the unsung heroes of the sporting journey. That contribution that parents make is an immense contribution that they make. I can maybe give an experience what I feel about my parents and what their contribution was, because everybody will contribute in different ways. Of course, my parents they supported me materially to provide me the facilities needed, because at that point of time, India, in the mid 90s, when I started shooting, I started under a mango tree. There were no shooting ranges, so it was a different era. So of course they provided me materially, but जो उनका जो सबसे बड़ा contribution था वो ये नहीं था। उनका जो सबसे बड़ा contribution था was my parents allowed me to make my mistakes. They never interfered in what I had to do. From a very young age, I had to own my successes and I had to own my failures, and that was something very, very important, because to develop as an athlete, you have to own your successes and your failures, because एक चीज़ हर sport में common है कि जब that final moment comes, when it is deciding whether you're going to be the best on top of the world or not, you're going to be alone, and you have to find that courage and that strength and that conviction to succeed from within yourself, and that can only happen when you go through this process. So my biggest contribution that my parents made, they gave me a lot of space to make my mistakes, to make my own decisions, and that was something very valuable. And of course, they were always very positive as well. You know, as an athlete, your colleague was just asking, every athlete goes through ups and downs. You know, I had many downs, mostly downs and ups. But whenever I felt hopeless, my parents always saw hope in me. So that was very valuable.
Hi, Theo from Chess. Thank you very much for all of your insightful answers and everything so far. I just wanted to touch on some of the topics that actually my colleagues have kind of asked already. It kind of touches on it a bit. There are very many similarities between chess and shooting, and I think you have a very unique perspective of having been at the top in a sport where all of the pressure is on one individual. It's not a team sport, and that's a very strong parallel with chess. How did you manage that expectation and psychological pressure, and what lessons or advice would you give to chess players, perhaps from India or the rest of the world, which are in the same situation?
Oh, well, I didn't do very well with the expectations and pressures. I handled it quite badly, to be very honest, and I can be quite candid now because I don't need to fake it anymore because I have nothing on the line anymore. You're absolutely right. It was a lonely pursuit. Shooting like chess can be lonely. But for me, my biggest constant companion in this journey was actually self-doubt. I tried very hard to try and overcome it and to get the self-belief and confidence normally associated with athletes. I worked with a lot of psychologists and trainers, wasted a hell of a lot of money on them, but really never was able to get a breakthrough, but with them at least. But I did have a breakthrough, and my breakthrough came in two parts. When I firstly started accepting pressure and I started accepting the expectations around my journey. Human nature is that when we're confronted with this stimulus or this pressure, we try and resist it, and that just simply makes it worse. So there was a time and day when I said, okay, this is never going to go away. I'm never going to be able to overcome this. I just have to learn how to coexist with it. So that shift in mindset of letting go and just simply coexisting with the pressure, coexisting with the expectation around it was very powerful, because it just then became kind of background noise, and I was able to focus on what I was supposed to do. Number one, that. Number two, what was very useful for me was when my breakthrough came when instead of chasing the self-belief that I didn't have, I started chasing self-respect. And that again was very powerful. How did I get self-respect? Was simply by showing up every day, by working hard every day, and trying to be better than others. Combination of those two.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Abhinav sir, for taking time to interact with the media. It was really insightful.
Thank you.